In this video, we're going to talk about the skill called circumference ratios. First off, if you don't have your calculator, go ahead and pause the video and go grab that. Okay, we're going to use it quite a bit here. Okay, we're going to go through 3 examples, all dealing with circumference ratios. Just like it sounds, we're going to be dealing with circumference. Remember, circumference is c equals pi times d. Okay, at some point, we're probably going to be using that formula. I've listed it up there in your video, but you can also find that on your formula sheet. Okay. In our first example, it says a wheel on Manuel's bicycle is 7/10 meter in diameter. Manuel rides the bicycle in a race, and the wheel turns 48 times during the course of the race. It wants to know how long is the race. Using 3.14 for pi and rounding our answer to the nearest tenth, but not rounding any intermediate steps. So that means that we're not going to round in the process, but only at the very last step. Okay, with all of these questions, I think it's best to kind of draw yourself a picture so you can wrap your mind around what they're talking about. Okay, so we're talking about Manuel. He has a bicycle. One of his wheels has a diameter of 0.7 meters. Okay, so a nice sized tire, 0.7 meters. It then says that in his race, that wheel turns 48 times. Okay, so it's going to turn 48 times. Okay. They want to know how long is the race from start all the way to finish. They want to know what is this distance. Okay, so we need to kind of stop and think about how do we find that distance. Okay, so the first thing we need to remember or to understand is that one turn on that bicycle wheel is equal to the circumference of the wheel. Okay, circumference is just a fancy word for perimeter, right? So circumference is the distance around his tire. Okay, so our first step in this process is to find out how long is one turn of his wheel. If his wheel of his bicycle turns one time, how much distance will be covered? Okay, so one turn is equal to the circumference of the circle. So our first step here is to find the circumference of his tire. C equals pi times d. 3.14 for pi, and they told us the diameter is 0.7. So using your calculator, 3.14 times 0.07, sorry, 3.14 times 0.7 is 2.198. Okay, so when his tire has rotated one time, he has traveled just a little over 2 meters. Okay, that's one turn. We know that his tire is going to turn 48 times before he crosses the finish line. Okay, so if one tire turn is 2.198, we're going to take that times the 48 turns, and that gives us 105.504. And that is distance, so our label will be meters. However, I forgot to round to the nearest tenth. So our answer here will be 105.5 meters. Okay, this is your tens place. The number after the tens place is 0, so it's less than half. So the 5 will remain a 5 instead of rounding up to a 6. So our answer here, 105.5 tenths of a meter. 105.5 meters. All right, second example. Again, I think setting up a diagram will help you wrap your mind around what's going on. It says a barrel is shaped like a cylinder, is laid on its side and rolled up a ramp that's 72 meters long. Okay, so imagine a cylinder barrel, okay, or like a really big soup can. All right, it's a circle and it's being rolled up a ramp that's 72 feet long. Okay, so our ramp is 72 feet and we have our cylinder, but right now I'm just going to focus on the circle, the side part of it. Okay. It says the barrel has a circular base, which is what you see in my picture, and that circular base has a diameter of 0.5 meters. Okay, 0.5 meters. This time it's asking how many times does the barrel need to turn in being rolled up the ramp. So to get from the start of the ramp to the top of the ramp, that's 72 meters, how many times does it have to turn? Until it gets to the top. Okay, keep in mind that one turn is equal to the circumference of the circle. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the circumference of the circle. C equals pi times d. C equals 3.14 for pi and 0.5 for the diameter. Multiply that out. We get 1.57. So one turn of the cylinder, one turn of the barrel will cover a distance of 1.57 meters. Okay? If the entire distance of the ramp is 72 feet, sorry, this shouldn't be feet up here, this should be meters. I apologize for that. Meters. If one turn of the barrel is 1.57 meters and the entire length it has to travel is 72 meters, we're going to take those two, we're going to divide them, and that will tell us how many times the barrel has to turn. Okay, so we're going to take the entire distance, 72 meters, and we're going to divide that by the distance it travels turning one time, which is 1.57. Again, don't round that 1.57, just leave it the way it is. So 72 divided by 1.57, and that gives us 45.859, and it kind of keeps going on there in your calculator. Again, they want us to round to the nearest tenths place. So 45 point, is that 8 going to stay an 8 or become a 9? Looking at the value after it is a 5, which is more than half then, so this 8 bumps up to a 9. 45.9 times the barrel has to turn before it reaches the top of the ramp. Okay? Our third example and our last example, again, draw out your shapes plan, or not your shapes plan, but your diagram. Karen races her bike 376 feet. Okay, so from start to finish, 376 feet. The wheel of her bicycle turns 47 times as the bicycle travels this distance. So as that wheel's turning, it turns 47 turns, or 47 times. It asks, what is the diameter of the wheel? Okay, so this time we're solving for the diameter of the wheel. Okay, first things first, if in fact one turn is equal to the circumference of the circle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those turns, instead of one turn is the circumference, we've got it turning 47 times. So this distance, the full distance of the race, 376 feet, is 47 circumferences of her bicycle tire. Okay, So to find the circumference of her tire, we're going to take the total distance of the race and divide by the 47 times that the bicycle tire turns. This will give us the circumference of the circle, just one turn of the bicycle wheel. So in your calculator, 376 divided by 47 is 8. Okay, the circumference, or one tire turn, is 8 feet. Okay, that's not what they're asking us though. They're asking us for the diameter of the circle. Okay, so this is representing one turn or the circumference of the circle. So if the circumference of the circle is 8 feet, then we can solve for the diameter of the circle. Remember, circumference is equal to pi times d. All right, if you're not familiar with that or have trouble remembering, make sure you access your formula sheet. Now we're going to substitute in the information that we know. So one tire turn is 8 feet, or the circumference is 8 feet, so an 8 goes in for C. They want us to use 3.14 for pi, and then that times diameter. Okay. Here you're looking at a one-step algebraic equation. 8 is equal to 3.14 times d. They're telling us to multiply d times 3.14. So to get d by itself, we're going to do the inverse, or the opposite, which is to divide. Inverse of multiply is divide. So we're going to divide. Same thing to both sides to keep the equal sign true. Multiplying and dividing on this side cancel each other out, leaving us with just d, which is great news because that's what we're solving for. So d equals 8 divided by 3.14. So in your calculator, 8 divided by 3.14, we get 2.54 and some 7s afterwards. Rounding to the nearest tenths place is either 2.5 or 2.6. Looking at the number after that place value is 4, which is less than half. So our diameter rounded to the nearest tenths place is 2.5 feet. Okay, give this skill a try. If you have any additional questions, make sure you have your notes out when you ask your teacher. Thanks.